We hear all the time about tech completely shaking up private companies, right? But what happens when you take that same kind of digital first thinking and apply it to a massive government agency? Well, we're about to dive into a really fascinating real world story about how one government body, one that's responsible for a whole country's financial safety net, tried to use technology to get better at its job.
And that really brings us to the big question. I mean, it's one thing to update an app on your phone. It's a whole other ball game to try and modernize a fundamental public service. How do you actually bring a system that affects millions and millions of lives into the 21st century without, breaking the whole thing?
So, the institution at the heart of our story today is the Jordan Social Security Corporation, or SSC for short. And this isn't just some random government office. We're talking about a pillar of the entire country's socioeconomic structure.
The SSC's role is, well, it's absolutely fundamental. It's the social insurance people count on when they retire, or if they get sick and can't work, or if they lose their jobs. It's the ultimate safety net. And it's funded by the very people it protects, the employees and their employers. So yeah, this is a system that's built on trust and stability.
But that system was facing a huge challenge. Basically, the number of people taking money out of the system as pensioners was growing way faster than the number of active workers putting money in. And that imbalance, it was putting the entire organization under some serious financial pressure. They had to get more efficient, more effective, and more sustainable, and they had to do it fast. So, what's the solution to a huge problem like that? This is where it gets really interesting, because the answer came from a place you might not expect: the Human Resources Department. To be specific, a concept called Electronic Human Resource Management, or EHRM. So, what on earth is EHRM? Think of it this way. It's basically taking HR and making it digital. All that classic stuff, hiring new people, managing payroll, training employees, doing performance reviews, and moving all of it onto a digital platform using IT and the internet. And the shift here is it's as big as the difference between mailing a physical letter and sending an email. Seriously. Traditional HR is all paper, all manual data entry, it's slow, and it's mostly focused on just shuffling that paper around. EHRM automates all of that, which frees up the HR folks to focus on high-level strategy that actually makes the organization better. Okay, let's break that down into 5 key parts. First, you've got e-planning. That's using data to predict who you'll need to hire in the future instead of just reacting. Second, e-recruitment. Think about going from paper applications that take weeks to sift through to an online system that can sort candidates in hours. Third, e-compensation. Handling salaries and benefits automatically and accurately. Fourth, e-learning, so delivering crucial training online whenever people need it. And finally, e-performance management, using clear digital tools for employee reviews. So that's the theory. But the big question is, does it actually work in the real world? Well, a group of researchers decided to put it to the test right inside the Jordan Social Security Corporation. This wasn't some academic exercise. This was a real-world analysis of a digital transformation as it was happening. And their goal was really simple and direct. They just wanted to see if using these digital HR tools actually made the organization better. Did EHRM have a real, measurable, positive impact on what they called organizational excellence? Things like working more efficiently, keeping employees happy, and actually hitting their big goals.
And to find out, they went straight to the source. They surveyed 82 employees working inside the SSC, and the answers they got would become the backbone of their entire analysis.
So what they did was pretty clever. They took all the data from those 82 responses and ran the numbers. They were looking for a connection, a correlation between using those 5 EHRM functions we just talked about and how well the organization as a whole was performing. So what did they find? Well, after all the analysis, the data told a really clear and honestly a pretty exciting story. This is the moment of truth, right? After all the theory and all the data collection, did switching to digital HR actually make a real, tangible difference at the SSC? The answer was a huge, unambiguous yes. The study found what's called a significant and positive statistical relationship. In plain English, that means the more the SSC used these digital HR tools, the better its overall performance became. It wasn't a coincidence. And here is the headline number. Get ready for this. 56.1%. The analysis showed that these new digital HR practices could explain over half of the improvements in the organization's performance. Just let that sink in for a second. This wasn't some tiny little correlation. Over half of the measured success could be traced right back to this digital HR transformation. That is a massive, massive impact. And when they drilled down into the details, the results were amazing across the board. Every single one of the 5 functions they measured. E-planning? Check. It had a positive effect. E-recruitment? You bet. Compensation, learning, performance management? Check, check, and check. They all showed a statistically significant positive impact. This wasn't just one thing working. The entire digital approach was a home run. Okay, so that's a cool story about a specific agency in Jordan. But why should the rest of us care? Let's zoom out and look at the big picture takeaway here. The lessons here are pretty universal. First, this proves that technology isn't just for tech startups. It is a powerful tool for any big organization, public or private, that wants to get better. Going all in on digital tools like EHRM isn't just about looking modern. It's about becoming more efficient, more competitive. And at the end of the day, it's about making sure you can survive and thrive for the long haul. And the study's own conclusion puts it perfectly. They say that to really cash in on this opportunity, organizations need to actively expand how much they use these tools and make sure everyone knows why they're so beneficial. It's about actively seizing the chance to improve. And that leaves us with one last big thought to chew on. We've just seen clear, hard evidence that a digital overhaul can work wonders in a critical government agency. So the question isn't really if technology can help anymore. The real question is, where should we point it next? What other public services that we all rely on every single day are ready for their own digital revolution?